Welcome back to Unbothered Bros. I am one of your hosts, Jay, and to my right, I have Jacob. But we have very special news actually. So part of this podcast, we had always had three, correct? And like I said in the last podcast, that unfortunately our third host had decided to part ways with the podcast, and Jacob and I have been praying about adding someone else, and we were trying to figure out who, right? And um, who God was going to place as the third host, and God answered. And we have my brother Ernesto with us.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for considering me. I'm excited to be here. Very excited to be here and join you guys in this journey and see what God has in store for us and for all the viewers.
Amen.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here, bro.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
So I know you said that a little bit about your background. You used to be actually on the radio back in the day. So this is not too new to you, but I think being behind the camera or in front of the camera is, right?
Yeah, it's definitely different, but I guess the goal is still the same.
Correct.
So it's not too new, but yeah, it's a little different because in the radio you actually get feedback or you get, people calling.
Okay.
And, because it was more of like a prayer program type deal.
Okay.
So we always had calls coming in constantly. So you were always like, talking to outside voices versus just here. But I mean, it's just an adjustment, but it's fun. I'm excited.
One of the things that we have been suggested, well, to me, I don't know if you've heard feedback, Jacob, but some people is like, y'all should go live one day and just do it live. So probably one day we'll do that. But I feel like it's more difficult like that, doing it live, because you really have to think on the spot. Right. So, but we're excited. We're excited you're part of the team.
Yes, sir.
Part of Unbothered Bros. And one of the questions that we've answered from our first episode, I wanted to ask you is, what does unbothered mean to you?
Well, I've been thinking about this, and I think someone said it best. Unmoved or unchanged. It's pretty much how I feel about it. At first I kind of had a hard time understanding like what the name of the podcast Unbothered. But the more I watched, I kind of I started understanding like, okay, I see what they mean by it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, to me, not to be moved or changed by what the world has to say.
Exactly.
Not to be bothered by, what others think. We are who we are and we're true to what we represent.
Yeah.
And, we're unbothered by what people think.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You got it. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm happy you're part of the team. And also, part of this podcast, we talk about, we invite people and we kind of let them introduce themselves or like tell us their story,
right?
Kind of their life story or a little testimony about themselves. And we would love to hear like just a little bit about you.
So I grew up in the church. I do remember as a young child, we would travel to Mexico, and my great grandfather would pray 3 times a day.
Wow!
And unfortunately for us, he was deaf, so he had to kind of raise his voice to hear himself, so we could hear him next door, at my grandfather's house. But over there where my parents are from, there's not a oneness doctrine church. So when my dad was the one who was always the oneness believer, right? My mom was a Catholic believer. So there was always, I guess, conflict at home because, one was pulling one way and the other one was pulling the other. So for me, I remember when I was a kid, sometimes we'd go to the Catholic church and sometimes we go to the Pentecostal church. And for me, I was never, brought or never pulled by the Catholic church because I guess as a kid, most of you guys should probably know, you as a kid, you just can't sit still. You know, and at a Pentecostal church, you're always, you know, they're singing, they're praising, they're worshiping. And that was really what, you know, me and my older sister, we always chose to go to the Pentecostal church. So it wasn't until my mom actually, she had an incident where I don't remember if they actually stole her purse or they attempted to steal her purse, where she finally like committed to, I guess she understood that, you know, God was on her side when that incident happened, and she was able to, you know, finally get baptized because she knew, she had taken baptism classes. She knew everything about what the Pentecostal, you know, belief was, but she just never wanted to commit because, you know, whatever her reasons are or were. But when she finally did, you know, I think I got baptized before she did, because me and my older sister, we got baptized like around 12. I think I was 12. She was like 13. So we got baptized really young. And then shortly after that is when mom got baptized. But for me growing up, it was a little bit difficult because, you know, my dad was always really strict. You know, he was always wanting us to walk on a fine line. And my mom was always the opposite, you know, because my mom, being that my dad was so strict, my mom was so lenient, you know. So as I was growing older, you know, I started going to high school, and, you know, I was still going to church, and I started hanging around with my friends or whatever. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, I started, you know, doing things that I wasn't supposed to be doing. You know, I started drinking. I started doing a little bit of drugs. I got very grateful to the Lord that it wasn't nothing severe. It was just like something minor. But I always tell everybody that, you know, throughout this whole process, you know, while I was out doing what I was doing, you know, there was always something in me that was always, you know, kind of like knocking at my heart or knocking at my head, just telling me like, you know, hey, I guess it's fine that you're here, but, you know, you're not supposed to be here. You know, and even when I was, you know, there was a time where I worked at the pharmacy, and, you know, I would work late Sundays. There was always something knocking at me, telling me like, you know, you're supposed to be at church. So I'm very grateful because, you know, my parents, you know, taught me the fear of God. And that was always, I can honestly say, and this is this is real for a lot of people that may not believe it, but this is real. You know, the Bible talks about, you know, you raise a child in his ways, and when he becomes old, he won't, you know, separate himself from them. And this is true. It's very true, because I can honestly speak and tell you that, you know, God was always talking to me regardless of what I was doing. So it wasn't until I met my wife, and matter of fact, my wife she is a product of the radio. Pastor Sandoval had a radio program during the lunch hour, and her stepdad was in a federal detention center, and he was able to listen to the radio, and that's how they came to Cuarta.
Oh, okay.
So that's how I met my wife. And it wasn't until I met my wife when my life really started, my spiritual life really started changing for the better. And shortly after that, that's when I joined the radio with Pastor Sandoval, and I did that for maybe about 6 to 8 months. And I really, really enjoyed it because I actually felt like I was making an impact. I was making a change in people's lives. Even if it was just a small prayer, you know, I feel like it was actually something fruitful, something productive, you know, that, you know, it was maybe even a calling that, you know, I was able to just help people out.
Right.
Know? But unfortunately, you know, the enemy's always trying to put a, you know, stop to things. So we weren't able to continue that, financial reasons, and, you know, because of our beliefs. But, you know, I thank the Lord that, you know, I met my wife, because she helped me get to where I am today. She helped me change, you know, my ways into and my faith was always there, but she just kind of straightened my path. You know, God used her to straighten my path. And well, I mean, we're here now, and, you know, I couldn't be more grateful to the Lord, everything that he's done for us, everything that, you know, he's been a full provider for our household. One of my biggest fears, as, you know, for every young man that wants to get married, it's, you know, are you going to be able to provide? And I can honestly say that, you know, the food has never not been on my table. You know, I have shelter, I have, you know, clothes on my back, and God's been good. You know, I can't complain, and, you know, thank God that we're here.
Amen. No, it's we're going back to when you said you would go to the Catholic church, and you see like you said, you as kids you can't stay still. Um, so I like a little like going back to that. We my wife and I we made friends with a couple at the hospital, and one of the things is they were seeking God, right?
Right.
And their baby was able to go home from the PICU. He was able to go home, and but the baby had to have a monitor,
Mm.
and it would beep, right? And they went to a Catholic church, you know, seeking God and stuff.
Right.
They went to two of them. The first one, they said that the baby's machine was too loud, right? And they're like, "Oh, we can't have that kind of noise here in this church." They went to the second Catholic church, the same thing. They went to our church,
No problem.
no problem,
Wow.
no
Yeah.
problem. I didn't even hear the baby's
Right.
monitor at all,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And the mom loved it, you know. The baby's mom loved it, and you know, we still keep praying for them.
Right.
They're actually back in the hospital with their baby, and but it was just like when you said that
Right,
came to
right,
my
right,
head,
right.
right? Where we accept everybody no matter
Right.
what the situation is, or you know, a monitor that makes noise or anything. We're very how can you say it? We don't mind stuff like that
Right.
because they have to come as they are,
Right.
right? We're welcoming. That's one of the things that I love about our church. We're very welcoming.
Right.
And I've heard it from many visitors that they've gone to their churches and it doesn't feel the same way.
Right.
And yeah, with those friends that we made in the hospital, it just brought back that memory when
Yeah.
she told us that, yeah, the machine was making noise, but you guys y'all accepted it, and I didn't say nothing, and you know it didn't bug me. I was unbothered.
Right.
I was
Yeah.
unbothered. So yeah, most everybody there didn't even say nothing, and that's how we have to be, you know. And yeah, I don't know. It just came to my head.
Right.
That's what I had to say. But thank you for sharing. Thank you for
Yes,
sharing
sir.
your
Yes, sir.
your
Yeah,
little
I'm-
testimony.
Yeah, we're glad to be here, man. Believe me, this brings back a lot of memories. And like I said, I hope that I can be and a great addition and just, keep add to what you guys are trying to do here. You know?
Yeah. And I loved it. I loved the conversations we had, and I told you, hey, would you like to be part of the podcast? And you said yes. Like,
Yeah.
and when you shared that, you felt like, okay, like God is calling me for this,
Right,
like
right.
how it was
Yeah.
back in the days
Right,
when I was on the
right, right.
radio. So I didn't even know about that.
Right.
When I told you, hey, you want to be part of the podcast, but it's God.
Right.
It really is
Yeah.
God.
Definitely.
I kind of felt I was telling my wife, like, I was like, man, I wonder if he's ever going to invite me to be just, a guest or whatever.
Yeah.
Here I am. So,
Wow.
Oh,
yeah.
now you're not a guest. You're part of
Right,
it.
right.
A bit more than a guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbothered by the world, standing strong and free, unashamed of Christ. It's life my legacy. In a world that's loud, I find my peace and rest. With faith as my anchor, I know I'm truly blessed.
One of the subjects that we want to get into with you as initiation,
Yes,
you
sir.
can say it's a pretty deep topic. A topic where we're probably gonna people love it or hate it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically talking about Christians that say they're liberals, right? A lot of Christians say that they go to, especially with the whole presidential thing coming up. I think
Right.
that it was a good topic to kind of bring, and I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to y'all guys about it. I want to see y'all input in it, and I don't know who wants to start it off.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, with everything that's coming up, this is definitely like a great topic. People should definitely be informed. I've heard people say that, oh, well, we're Christian, it doesn't affect me, but, this is this affects everyone here. If we're living in America, then everything we do, everything that goes on in the government will affect us.
Right.
And I believe that's even the reason why the Bible tells us that we're supposed to pray for our government leaders or,
Mm-hmm.
the officials, because it all affects us and it affects the church as well, right? It affects what we can do. It will not exactly what we can do, but it affects, what is going on in our country, right?
Right.
So that's why we can't just not be informed about anything. So that's why I feel like this is just going to be a very good episode today to talk about liberals and conservatives.
As you can kind of tell, we're pretty much conservative.
Very,
I think it's just part of our belief. It's not.
yeah,
It's not who is in front and who's representing the Republican side.
Right.
It's not the face. It's the principles and what the.
Go ahead, show it, Jake.
It's not the face. It's not the
Right.
face. It's what the party represents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. As me as a Christian, if you really go deep into the Bible, one of the big topics, it's abortion.
yeah,
Abortion is a no-go, right? Abortion is murder. No matter how the baby is coming into this world, it's still murder,
mhm,
Right.
right? God says that everybody was created for a purpose,
Right.
mhm,
and the moment. So me and my wife, we saw this video, right? And it's a science video. They put a camera inside the woman, and the moment the sperm travels through the woman and it hits the egg, there's a bright light that comes out of nowhere in the video, and the doctors are shocked. They don't know how that even can happen inside a woman. So the moment it hits the egg, there's a bright light,
Right.
and they were just trying to figure out what was that, and that basically says God is giving life
Right.
right at that moment. And it hurts. It hurts to even think about people just doing that to a baby,
right,
Yeah.
right? No matter how small or how big the baby is already in the womb,
mhm,
it hurts, especially me as a dad. As a dad, with everything I went through with my son, I wish my son was still here,
Right.
right? And there's people willing to kill their own kids,
yeah,
murder their own kids,
mhm,
just because they want to still live life.
Right.
They still want to party. They still want to act a fool. I'm sorry, but it's the truth,
yeah,
right? They don't want that responsibility. If you don't want it, someone else does.
Right.
There's a lot of people that don't have that opportunity to even have a baby. There's women that are not capable of having a
Right.
baby,
Right.
that are willing to adopt that baby and give it a good life,
Right.
right? So, it's a topic where I'm pretty, it doesn't anger me, right? It just,
right. You're
I'm passionate about it,
Right. Right.
right? Especially with everything that we went through. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's tough to even think about it.
I mean,
Yeah.
for me, it's I have two kids, and especially with my daughter, we were told that she only had a 5% chance of survival. So we could have easily just kind of like, just let it ride and see what happens. But I told my wife, like, well, the doctor recommended us, doing certain, treatments or whatever, and I was like, well, let's just do what we do and let God take control. But I mean, you hear stuff like that, and like you said, there's people that are willing to, are wanting but can't, and there's others that can't but don't want it. So it's I know it's a sensitive topic, especially because we're men.
Exactly.
Somebody's gonna have an opinion or have something to say because we're men, but we are dad. I mean, you and I, we're dads.
Exactly.
So we have the same voice as in a sense as a woman does, because
Mm-hmm.
at least for me, it's those are my kids,
Exactly.
and it's just I I know there's certain circumstances doesn't justify it. There's certain circumstances that happen, but God. I think God has a plan for everything.
Yeah.
God has a purpose for everything.
Jacob, I know you don't have kids, but one day you will. You know, you know, God willing, you have kids. What do you think
Right.
about abortion?
Yeah, I think just no matter which way you spin it, abortion is murder. No matter how you try and say it, abortion is murder, because the very second that a baby is formed, that is life, that is a soul, that is something that God has created. And there's a verse right here that you had given me to read. For you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret, and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Your eyes saw my substance being yet unformed, and in your book they were all written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them. So even when we have been unborn, God still saw us. God still saw us, and He made us. It says fearfully and wonderfully made us. A baby, even no matter what circumstances that baby was formed, right? It was still made by God. God still has a
Mhm.
reason and a purpose for that baby.
Sure.
We never know what God can do with that baby in the future. If someone chooses to abort their babies, then that is something, that is a life that who knows what that could have done, who knows what that life could have done, that person that would have been born, what they could have done in their lives, who they could have been, what they could have accomplished. That's why I feel like abortion, no matter what the purpose is behind it, no matter what you feel like you want to do for, no matter why you feel like you want to have abortion, it's just not right.
Biggest thing for me
Yeah.
is there's other options.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's not the only option.
Yes.
There's other ways to handle it, but most people just choose to go that route.
Right. And
You know.
yeah, one thing I've seen some statistics about it, and the main reason why people choose to have abortion is because they feel like it will interfere with their work or
Yeah.
their education, their work or their education. But, if you've chosen, if that's happened to you in that life, then you've basically become a mother, you've become a father. You can't just put your work, your education above the life of someone else.
Right. It's tough. It's tough. Raising children is not easy. It's one of the hardest things that I've had to do, but it's also the most rewarding
Right.
gift that God can give you. Watching my kids grow up is the most beautiful, but at the same time, the most hardest thing that I've got to go through.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are not are not gonna like that, especially
Yeah.
guys are talking about it, right?
Right.
But I think that it is time for us to talk about it,
Yeah.
right? To have a voice for it. A lot of women have a voice for it. A lot of women say what they feel. The ones that are for abortion, ones are not for abortion,
Mm-hmm.
and us as men, we have to stand up for those rights as well,
Right.
Yeah.
for not only our kids but other people's kids.
Right.
That's one thing that I've kind of like taken on as well, is always praying for people that I don't even know, like that
Right.
that are in the hospital, and especially kids that are dealing with illnesses,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right? And praying for their parents, because the parents are going through a lot of stress. Some of them have to leave their jobs,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So, there's parents that are crying for their kids to be healthy in the hospitals, and then there's people that are willing to just
Yeah. Wow.
get rid of their
Yeah.
of their babies, and their babies could have made a difference in their lives.
Right.
Mhm.
Because my baby made a difference in my life.
Yes, sir.
The short time he was here, he taught me a lot. He taught me how to pray. He taught me how to love God. He taught me, even though he was going through a rough time, he taught me that he was strong,
Mhm.
and it made me strong as well as a dad. It just, I don't see it fair. I don't see
Yeah.
it fair that, like you said, there's other options.
Yeah.
Give it
Mhm.
up. Give the baby a good life, by just putting him up for adoption,
Right.
Yeah.
right? And
No.
someone's gonna love them.
Not only that, but then there's the risk to yourself with abortion.
Mm-hmm.
People have abortion, and depending on the person, they themselves could end up dying from that abortion, or they could end up never being able to have kids again.
Yeah.
So I did read that a lot of the women that have gone through abortion regret it later.
Mm.
Like years pass, and they think about it because they're like, I was too young, or I'm like, they're like 26 and they they aborted their child, and
Right.
Yeah.
when they're 40 something, they're like, wow, like why did I do that?
Mhm.
So it does come back, and it does. I'm sorry, but it does haunt you.
It's
You
old
know,
wounds.
you think about it like, why did I do that? So imagine those people that are going through that right now. Like we have to pray for them because we don't know what they're going through as well. So
Right.
yeah, I know it's a tough subject. It's a really tough
Definitely.
subject.
Yeah. So another controversial practice that we want to talk about. I know it's gonna rattle some feathers, but same-sex marriage. I know the times that we're living in. It's more exposed, and not a funny thing, but something that somebody said to me years ago, and I didn't really think much of it, but it actually came to pass. And this was back like in 2011, 2012,
Mhm.
2013 time.
Mm.
He told me that his kids would grow up in a world where same-sex marriage was a thing of the norm.
Mm.
And I didn't think much of it at the time, but now the times that we're living in,
Yeah.
it was actually a true statement. And
Mhm.
I know it's something that's come up a lot. Actually, it's been exposed a lot more
Yeah.
now in these times, and it seems like in the past 3 years, really. But I just want to see what you guys think. I mean, obviously, I know what the fundamentals or the
Right.
foundation of what you guys think. But Jacob,
Mm.
what do you think?
Well, first of all, right, with same-sex marriage, I mean, the Bible is very clear about what it says about same-sex marriage, and it's a sin. It's not right. God created man and woman, and man is supposed to leave his house and be joined to a woman. The Bible, it talks many times, and there's a lot of verses where it mentions, that the same-sex marriage is a sin, and that Jesus does not allow it. Jesus does not permit it. And it's just something that we're not supposed to be doing it, but we do need to be informed on it because it's happening right now, and it's getting very, very prevalent. It's getting very in the world. They're showing it a lot more now. They have a whole month celebrating their pride, celebrating you know that, and they've taken the rainbow for themselves as a symbol of same-sex marriage, as a symbol of not just that, but as a symbol of the LGBTQ and everything. They've taken what was originally God's symbol, that was the rainbow, which was a promise from God, and they've taken it for
Right.
themselves, and they've said pride, and it will be Pride Month, and be proud of who you are, be proud of who you love. But we know the Bible is completely against all of these things, and I have a verse right here. Um, Let me see here. The Bible says, "You shall not lie with a man is. You shall not lie with a man as with a woman. It is an abomination." Another verse here. For this God gave them up to their vile passions, for even their women exchanged the natural use for what is against nature. Likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burn in the lust for one another, men with committing what is shameful, and receiving in themselves the penalty of their error which was due. So it's saying there that men being with men and women being with women, it's wrong. It is sin. It's against what the Bible says. It's against what God teaches, right? So that is not what we're supposed to be doing. And a lot of people now, I don't know if y'all have heard this, but a lot of people say nowadays that gender is a construct. I don't know if y'all have heard that. They try and say gender is just an idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
exactly.
when a gender isn't just an idea, a gender is a truth created by God. A
Amen.
gender is something that from the very beginning, one of the first things that God decided was man and woman.
That's right.
God made man and woman. So that gender is not just an idea. Gender is not just something that you can decide, that you can change just however you're feeling on that certain day, or just however you decided to feel. Gender is something that God has given you. If you were born a man, then God has created you a man. Right now we were just talking about abortion. I read that verse that you're fearfully and wonderfully made, right? And that's another thing that verse means. If God has created you as a man, then you were fearfully and wonderfully made as a man. God created you with a purpose as a man. And same thing as if you were a woman. God has created you to be a woman who was fearfully and wonderfully made.
Amen. One of the things that I haven't really been fond of is they're trying to push this on our kids as well.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And especially we have a lot of kids that are Christian that go to these schools, and they're trying to push all this agenda on them.
Right.
Like one of our own guys, Chris, he went through a situation where in school they wanted to hurt him just because he is not for that agenda,
Right.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he stood up. He stood his ground, and that just shows how strong he is, and he believed in God.
Right.
That God is in control, no matter the situation, and God didn't let them touch him, and
Right.
just shows that God is with us, no matter what, because we're standing with Him. We're believing in His word, not in this agenda that they're trying to push on these
Yeah.
kids.
Right. Right.
And it doesn't just stop in elementary. It doesn't stop in middle school and high school. It goes on to college,
Right.
and a lot of these college young adults now are being brainwashed
Yeah.
into thinking that it's okay to feel if you're a girl, if you feel like you're a guy that day, be a guy,
Right.
Mhm.
right? But it doesn't even stop there. It says if you want to be a cat one day, here's a litter box. I'll put it
Yeah.
right there in the corner of the room. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a lizard today. I'm just hanging out here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So is this agenda, to me, they're just playing pretend at this point,
Yeah.
right? And they're just making it as it's a joke.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a big joke.
Somebody
Yeah.
told me that I think the reason why all this is coming out, and I'm sure you guys would agree, is because I think the enemy knows, or Satan knows, his time's coming up.
Yeah.
So he's trying to, just reel in as many souls as he can.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very unfortunate because, you want to, raise your kids in a decent place, but yesterday, matter of fact, we were watching a documentary, and I realized that, this is a very bad place that we live in,
Mm.
and stuff that we know is really just the surface of what's really out there, all these stuff that we see and that's happening in the world right now. It's not really, I don't even think we can really understand the sickness and the evilness
Yeah.
that's actually out there. What we hear and what we see is just the surface
Mm-hmm.
of what's really happening out in the world right now.
Yeah, for sure. Like going back to what Jay said, that right now the children are being targeted so heavily. I think, going with what you said too, that the enemy, he knows that his time is near, so he's trying to reel as many souls in, and he's doing that by targeting the children
Right.
a lot, because he knows that kids, their brains, their minds, they're so easy to I don't know how to say it, but they're so easy to, to convince.
Right.
There's to convince. Their minds are malleable. You can convince them to do this, to do that, and they'll believe you because they see someone that's older than them doing it. And they're like, oh, well, I guess that's the way that the world works. I guess that's right. And that's why we see a lot, and we see nowadays in children's TV shows, a lot of characters are just forcefully LGBT, and it's like being forced in there. It's just like be out in the open. They make it so obvious just for the purpose of showing it to children, just for the purpose of making it normalized. That's one of the main things that I see is being pushed, that they're trying to normalize it. They're trying to make it seem like, oh, this is normal. They're trying to make it seem like, oh, this is like perfectly fine. Trying to make it seem like, oh, this is, it's okay to do all of this and to be that. And they tell the children this, and they start to convince and they start to believe it. And that's where it starts when they're young. They get convinced this when they're young, and then they grow older, and they have those roots within them when they believe from they were young. They believe now that they're older, they believe that, oh, it's still okay because I heard this when I was young, and their brains were changed when they were young, and now they still believe those ways that they do.
The crazy part to me too is the parents actually allow it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Instead of the parents having a voice or a backbone, as I like to say,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of just let the kids run the show.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And just to not go to contrary to what the kid is saying, or just make the kid happy.
Yeah.
They want to just go with what the kid is saying. But I mean, we have to be parents.
Mhm.
I like to pray to God every time and just tell him, make me sensitive when I need to.
Right.
Give me a hard hand to discipline my kids when I need to.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you can't just go with whatever your kids say.
Yeah.
That's another thing. The parents need to kind of, put their, put their foot down or just voice their,
Yeah.
show who the parent is.
Yeah.
Yeah, parents have to be careful. Just like what Jacob said, now the cartoons nowadays are pushing this,
Mhm.
pushing this agenda. We were at the hospital with my wife, and there was an area where parents were able to kind of just sit down and eat and stuff. And there was a kid that was watching a cartoon, and we're there, so we were just watching as well, and what the cartoon was like, oh, it was two characters that were having a conversation, and one of the characters like, oh yeah, I have a mom and a dad. What do you have? And he's like, oh, I have two mommies.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And then like the character that heard that was like, two mommies? How does that work? It's just my mommy loves another mommy, and they started explaining.
Mhm.
And they're making it so normal now.
Yeah.
They're normalizing it, and it's getting really, really dangerous.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
devil is trying to hit the most innocent souls, because
Yeah.
babies are innocent. Little kids are innocent. They don't know any better.
Right.
And they're hearing this, and it hurts. It hurts to hear and see that,
Yeah.
because one day, imagine one of your kids comes up to you like, hey dad, this person has two mommies, why don't I have two mommies?
Right.
They get all confused,
Right.
and that's not normal.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily for us, I don't know how much our luck actually is, but luckily we live in Texas.
Yeah.
But who knows how much our luck's gonna run.
Right.
Yeah.
But fortunately for us, we live in Texas, so hopefully we can.
We can stay like
We
can stay the
at
same
least
way.
stretch it out for a little
Stay
bit.
red.
But it's just what I seen is that the big cities in Texas are super left.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason our state is red is because of the little towns.
Right. Exactly.
They have kept their
Right.
principles.
Mhm.
They've kept they kept up with their beliefs,
Right.
which is put God first, and then after God is your family,
Yeah.
and then it goes
Right.
from there, right? And then it goes
Yeah.
to your ministry, then your job and stuff like that.
Right.
And they kept up with it. So
Yeah.
that's why it's
Thank
kept
God.
it's kept on being read. But yeah, it's pretty much everything that I have to talk about with this whole abortion and same-sex marriage. We could keep going on and on and on and on, but we can wait till we get to the other subjects and
Right.
see when God wants us to talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm super happy, like I said, that you're part of the team.
Yes, sir.
And it was a great conversation. You're a natural, bro. You're
Yeah.
a natural.
Definitely.
Yeah, you're a natural, and
Appreciate it, man.
man, your testimony is powerful. Because I bet a lot of people have gone through that, where they've been strong. They thought they were strong in their path with God, but it takes that special person to come to your
Yeah.
life too, and make you even stronger.
Right.
Right. Put you in the right mindset, you
Yeah.
can say. Right. And, shout out to your wife for
Yeah,
doing
for
that.
sure. For sure.
Because I know my wife has done that too, where I thought I was good, and she told me, no,
Yeah.
not. And so, I mean, that's a good thing about marriage. You got somebody keeping you accountable when you're messing up and stuff.
Right.
In your path with Christ. So, look for somebody good, Jacob.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm serious.
For sure. Yeah.
I'm serious. Just pray about it. But you have to go seek, bro.
Yeah.
when we
She
get
won't
there.
fall out of the sky. I'll tell you that.
When we get there.
No, there's a lot of guys that like they've come up to me and they're like, hey, so like, how'd you meet your wife? How did you know it was the right one? And I was like, first you gotta trust in God, and you have to go seek. Just like you seek the presence of God, you have to go
Right.
seek your wife as well. I'm not saying like go from girl to girl to girl. Of course not. But the right one will come.
Yeah, somebody gave me some advice, and because I was kind of, when I was like kind of like, okay, is she it or not? I seeked, I've always liked to seek advice from like, people who've been there, older, people who've been there, wiser, smarter than me, and they told me, do you see your life progressing, or do you see it regressing?
Oh,
If your life is getting better with this person, then most likely they're it. But if you're starting, if you see that things are not going the way you want them or whatever the case, then you may want to reconsider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So my advice would be, if your life is growing, most importantly spiritually, and then, materialistically, then, and God has showed you, signs or told you, then, most likely, yeah. But
You taking notes, Jacob?
Yeah.
Hey guys, y'all taking notes back there?
I'll have to go back and
Because
rewatch
all the guys in the back, they're single, so
our mysterious
trying to-
cameraman.
they're gonna have to watch the podcast after, take notes and stuff. So I'm just letting y'all know, especially you. I'm just kidding, but yeah, it was fun.
Yes,
It's
sir.
been
Definitely.
fun.
it was fun.
Talking about this, we have a good flow.
Yeah.
I love it.
It does
God-
feel natural, like the three of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
It feels natural, for sure.
and yeah, man, I'm super excited
Yeah, me
to
too.
have you on the team. God is good.
Yes, sir.
God places the puzzles how they're supposed to be placed in each and every one of our lives.
Mhm.
That's how I see our life. Is
Yeah.
just a puzzle. It's a puzzle, and God's like, okay, this piece goes here at this time.
Yes,
Right?
sir.
So
Yeah.
thank you for accepting.
Yes,
brother.
sir.
Thank you,
for
Jacob.
having
me.
You
Yeah.
too.
Of course.
You
Glory
too,
to
bro.
God.
And yeah, thank you everybody that's watched, and it's been fun. Hopefully you guys love the content that we're bringing out, the content that our media team is bringing out as well. We're going to be having motivational short videos that will be coming out as well, that our media team has started working on. And also follow our social medias, which is YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. It's all under Unbothered Bros. We're super excited, and we're excited because the next episode is going to be very interesting.
Mhm.
We have a very special guest coming on the next episode, and I know it's going to be a blessing, and the subject is going to be powerful. And,
Definitely.
yeah. I'm
Very
super
needed
excited.
too.
Excuse me?
Very needed too.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's very, very needed. And like I said, stay tuned
Mm-hmm.
for what's coming up next. And we're so happy that Ernesto is part of our team as well.
Yes, sir.
So thank you, brother. Thank you, both of y'all.
Appreciate the both of y'all, for sure.
Yes, sir. Thank you for watching. God bless y'all. And we'll see you on the next one.
No worries can sway me, no fear can hold me down. In Christ, I'm victorious.